Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our American Scousers pre-match show here. I am once again in the host chair for this pre-match show. We've got a little fun five-a-side team for you guys today. Kind of going off of what we did last week, bringing everyone on, going through the teams. Teams have just been announced 15 minutes ago. Maybe a couple surprises, maybe not. We'll get into it. So I'm going to bring everyone in one by one. First, let me introduce Gally. Gally, how you doing?
I'm good. Good morning. So excited for the match. Can't even get myself off mute. Hope you guys are as excited as well, and can't wait to chat a little bit here and kill some of these 44 minutes that are always the most grueling leading up to the kickoff. So
absolutely. And welcoming Maka as well. Maka, how are you?
I'm good. Tired. It's a Sunday morning, and we're all up, like with the boards, as my title thing says, getting ready for the most nerve-wracking 45 minutes because that is a different team than anybody expected, I think.
I would have to agree with that. And coming up, I think cleanup, is that the term? Trevor, how are you?
Correct terminology, yes. And in the car waiting for the pub to open. This is going to be a very long 43 minutes for me.
We'll try to make it as quick as possible.
Oh, it'll be good. It'll be good.
And from North Carolina, 6'6" shooting guard, Kazi, welcome.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm over in Nevada. This is 5:15 in the morning for me. This is a killer.
I was going to say, you're out on the West Coast, aren't you?
Yeah, I am, mate. Yeah. How are you all, guys?
I think everyone's doing well. So let's kind of take a look here at what we saw come out. Gally, your initial thoughts when you saw this team sheet pop up. What are you thinking there?
So I won't lie, my eyes, immediately went to the, I think, what was he described as? He looks like a pirate, I think is what Neil Atkinson from the Anfield Rap said last week, that Darwin looks like a pirate and looks like he would basically steal anything from you. I loved it. So the first thing, Nunez got the rightful start. Little surprised to see Endo not starting, but I'm sure we're going to talk about that and where we think McAllister will line up and how we'll probably go about this match. But really excited for Nunez to get the run out today at Anfield, get the adulation he deserves. And I think it's, it is a true like kind of birth of Darwin, in my opinion, right now. And that match last week was exactly what he needed. And I hope he kicks on and has a big performance today. He doesn't need 2 game-winning goals. He just needs to put in a shift, in my opinion, and keep the positivity rolling into the international break for him.
Maka, do you think that Darwin being put in the lineup is sort of a what he deserves based off last week, or was this, you think, in the cards? Or what are your thoughts there?
Well, first of all, I think he's not so much Orlando Bloom as Orlando Boom. Just get the weak pun out of the way for the morning. But I think it's probably a little from column A and a little from column B. I think it's possible that I think Villa play a back 3. I might be wrong, or they may have to play a back 3 given the players that they have out. So that might have influenced the planning ahead. But I think you have to reward him for what he did last week. I mean, he pulled the game out of the bag for us with 10 men. Without him on the field, we probably lose the game 1-0 because I don't remember us looking hugely like scoring. But so you have to reward him. So, I mean, I'm happy to see it. It is unfortunate that Jota doesn't get rewarded as well because I thought he probably did better than Diaz last week when he came on. But it's great to have him coming off the bench. That's the great thing about it all. We have options coming off the bench now.
I think, Trevor, that's a big thing, is having the depth there that might have necessarily not been there before. Do you feel, I mean, looking at the subs, there could be maybe a center back or 2 on there as well, but do you think looking at the subs gives you a much better feeling than it has in the last, let's say, 18 months?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you guys were saying, having Nunez get that merit-based start today after what he did last week is huge. It's got to be huge for his confidence, keep him up and up instead of down when it's easy for the way he's played over the past couple games before the last one that you could really just be down on yourself. And now it's like, oh, I got goals, and now I'm going to get this opportunity against a banged up goalkeeper and an even more banged up back line. I hope, like Gally, I hope he puts in a good shift, but I hope he gets a goal just to keep that momentum rolling.
Speaking of goals, Cosby, very attack-minded lineup here. Thoughts on the Jones over Endo and who's going to play the 6 there?
Surprised. I thought he would do it in a few games, not the ones when Canate and Virgil was out, which makes it more surprising. The one thing we've always asked the manager to be more rotating and give more players a chance. As soon as he gets the options to do it, then we're all a bit on edge. So it's like you can't find the balance. The manager's probably sitting there going, what do you want? Kind of thing. Looking at that squad now, actually, it's interesting. When you add Virgil, Canate, Thiago and Gravenberch, there's probably an argument that this is his deepest squad he's ever had. Like, genuinely his deepest squad. Where you go, first sub isn't Origi off the bench kind of thing. And, the first midfield and second midfield subs are not Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain. So there's probably an argument that this is his deepest ever squad, which you might see a lot more rotation because he probably trusts these new players more than he did the old players. So we might start seeing a lot more surprising lineups, I think. The one who's probably can count himself unlucky, really, is Gakpo. I thought he would start Diaz. I did mention that on the Friday show. I think I was the only one who kind of went for it. But I do. The one reason I feel sorry for Gakpo, because in the first 2 games, he hasn't played well, but he also hasn't played his position. Right. And then when he gets his chance in his position, we go down to 10 men inside 35 minutes, 40 minutes. So he's probably the one who can count himself unlucky not to start. I thought Diaz would start, actually, to be honest. And because he was the first sub after the sending off. And it's also like, hey, I'm sorry about that. You know what I mean? Because let's get it right. We were all in shock when he first took him off because he was our best attacking player. He nearly scored when he just took the whole team on. And so hopefully he can find that confidence as well from the last game. But I'm super excited, man. I can't wait now. After seeing that, I love a good basketball game. Why not? To start me Saturday off,
Well, and there's your 6'6" North Carolina Michael Jordan intro from the beginning. I'm sorry, it didn't work.
It's working for you now. Me and Michael Jordan in the same sentence. I'm good with it.
Yeah, it'll work in 2 weeks. Gally, any thoughts on who will play the 6 between Jones and Mac? Do you think what do you think is going to go on there?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I'm hopeful that for both players, I'm hopeful that it's McAllister, and the reason is that I think that Jones, to Kazi's point, and I was actually going to make the point about Gakpo that it's kind of unfair, but if you rated our attacking starters for the 3 matches, he's 5th right now. Like, he's probably fallen to 5th, but that's unfair because I feel the manager asked him to play in a position that I didn't like him in. I know my guys on Monday night disagreed with me. They thought he played well in the 8 position. I thought he did a job, but it just didn't look natural, and it kind of hurt what he does. So to that same effect, I don't want Jones to get his first minutes of the year coming off his best 10 matches ever and his best summer ever, and to be asked to be shoehorned into a position I don't feel that he's physically built to do. And I think that his skill sets, it diminishes what he does, because the good things about Jones is his confidence, and sometimes his problem is his confidence, right? And I think he needs to be more further forward, and I would hate to see him today in the 6. I have more faith in McAllister in that role. And to Kazi's point, and I put it in the Discord, I genuinely believe the manager is like, I'm starting my 3rd and 4th center backs against a team that tactically sets up well no matter what you do, no matter who you are. Unai Emery sets up well against you. And I think he knows that this is a game now. He's probably got to score 3-4 goals. And I think he said to himself, I'm going to put the 6 best guys out there I can to start the match and attack, and we're just going to outscore them. And I think McAllister will be doing the job in the 6 for me until Endo comes in at some point for Jones. And then maybe you move McAllister more further forward, or Elliott comes in for him, because, lost in all of this is how well Elliott's played in 3 matches from the bench. Nobody's saying Elliott should deserve a start, but he might be just as aggrieved as Jota is, because Elliott came on the pitch last week and absolutely changed the match for me.
Yeah, Sparky Parky saying would have liked Endo instead of Jones. Jones not good enough. And Brian saying Mecca would be the better pick as the 6 role. Comments on either one of those, Kazi?
I think that's harsh on Jones, mate. The stick he gets is so harsh. Like literally, I think there's a stat out there that he's our midfielder doesn't lose the ball. He's got like a 97% ball retention in our midfield. Like he just doesn't lose the ball. Which when you're a football manager and you're picking football players, I like the ones who don't give the ball away. Like it makes my job a lot easier to pick him. I think for Jones, as Gary just said, it's his best ever 10, 12 games towards the end of the season there. And again, you gets the point where you've got to start these lads. If they're all playing well, you've got to find minutes for them. I said it with Darwin on Friday. He has to be rewarded for a start. The one thing that helps Liverpool out is our next 3 fixtures are quite open really for us. You get Wolves away. I think it's Leicester in the cup, and then it could even be like Lask as well. I think it's after within the next 4 games of them, you've got Lask. So there's going to be a lot of minutes, and we're going to see a lot of crazy formations. But I think he does Jones in the 6. I still think he does Jones in the 6. I know it sounds mad. He played well against Chelsea. I know it wasn't in the 6, but he did play well against Chelsea before he got his injury when he came on. The reason being, I just think he wants McAllister further the field. But the one thing that team tells us all, he's not going back to 4-3-3, guys. He's definitely putting Trent alongside the 6 when we're on the ball, because there's no way he would start Curtis Jones on a lone 6, and there's no way he'd do that with McAllister either.
With that, Maka, are you a little worried with Villa being so good on the counter as they are, having the pace on the wings? Do you think that we're set up in a way that's going to really make us vulnerable in the back on the wings?
I don't know. I think I agree with Cosy. I think that we're going to stick with this, but it also means we're training with it, which means they're ironing out the wrinkles as the training days go on. I just want to point out, though, that I agree with Cosy. When you're picking a team, you want players that don't give the ball away. I think that's a nice rule to have. And there's always an exception to the rule. So I just want to point out that Harry Maguire is the living exception to that rule, because he gets picked for teams and he gives the ball away like it's going out of fashion. Just so we all know, we can identify the exception that proves the rule. I'm not worried about Jones so much, but I think half of the problem for Jones is that he still looks like a kid. He looks like he looks eternally like he's a teenager that just came out of the academy, and he probably will do when he's 35. He's like the ageless picture of Dorian Gray of soccer players. But I think he'll be okay. And we're going to put Trent beside him. I think we'll be okay in the counterattacks. The question will be just the mobility of Gomez and Matip in the middle to get out and cover when needed. I'm more comfortable with Gomez doing it because he has played fullback than I am with Matip, but maybe that's not Matip's job in the game today. Maybe Matip is going to be almost the sweeper in the middle, and Robbo will be a little bit more conservative on the left side. So we might actually balance out, even if it's an unconventional looking way of doing it.
Trevor, any thoughts on that back line that you wanted to add?
I think it's a big day for our fullbacks, because as you mentioned, with the pace that Villa brings to the table, with how they're deploying Matty Cash, Diaby has been an absolute monster. If Robbo has another shocker like he's had, we're going to be in some serious trouble. And if Trent gives the ball away while he's in his inverted role, while we have the ball, that could lead to some serious issues that need addressing very earlier than we were anticipating.
I think Trev brings up a good point, mate, right, about Robertson. The one thing this formation allows us is to say to Robertson, you're not crossing the halfway line that much today. It does allow him that, because you're not losing an extra attacker.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're not losing an attacker in Robertson. And it's more, with Matty Cash coming down and Diaby and players like that. Ollie Watkins is probably one of the most informed strikers in the world right now. It does give him that option to go, you can convert to more of a 3 at the back kind of thing. And you are not just going to be willy-nilly up and down the line kind of thing and doing what you like. So Robertson's probably got the most important role in the squad right now in the team today, especially with that formation. But the one thing that team allows us as well, which we're not thinking about, he's probably said to Gomez and Matip, this is the trust I'm putting in you. Forget all what's happened in the previous 12, 18 months where you barely kick balls and you've been poor and you've been injured, and I'm not interested. I'm putting my trust in you against, again, one of the most informed strikers in the world. And what that can do for us is massive. It's massive because it gives you the confidence then to go, well, you know, the gaffer's not putting an endo sitting literally in front of me and stuff like that. And he wants me to, no, he's going to Gomez, going, you are playing this inverted role. You've done it all pre-season. You've done it all training. You know what you're doing it. So the one thing that, and again, it's weird how it might work out. It's probably the one time in the season where Virgil's probably going to get a rest. Because as soon as he comes back, he's probably playing every game. And we all ask for Virgil to get more of a rest. Unfortunately, it's a forced rest. But we have no idea how long he's going to be out for. But the games do fall favourably for us after the international break, where you could probably rest him anyway. Inverted rest. But
I was going to say, it's better for him to rest forced like this than rest an injury and have him come back absolutely fine. And Gally, Kazi brings up a good point with Robertson, because we've talked about before how Robbo and Trent were really necessary in playmaking going up and down. But now that you have guys like McAllister and Soboslai to be able to play make, and you don't need that much pressure on the fullbacks to do it, that really allows Robertson to sit back. It's just a matter of if he can do that again after playing the way that he has for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he naturally wants to get forward. He likes to create. He likes to cross the ball. You know, he likes to overlap with Diaz on the left. But that's the other thing, is that Diaz actually gives us a wide winger who likes to keep his boots on the touchline and has no problem with it. So no offense, it's not an offense to Robbo, but you don't need Robertson overlapping like you did when Mane would cut inside. Or if you have Darwin out there and he's just naturally finding his way into that, you know, in between the center half and the fullback. So I think, to Kazi's point, it allows you to leave him back a little bit. It allows you to say, hey, you pick your spots where you go forward. I do think it is really important for the center backs, because we didn't buy a center back, right? We didn't get in what we wanted. It's important that these guys have confidence. And more importantly than anything, and I love Joel Matip, but I genuinely believe he has kind of fallen to fourth on this pecking order. I think this match is immense for Gomez, because you ask him to fill in for Virgil. You ask him to be on that left-hand side, which completely has more responsibility, because Matip's job is to cover the vacated space on the right. So I think you give Gomez a little bit of the leadership role today as well, to be like, hey, your job is to help organize this back line, to work with the 2 6s in front of you. And I hope we see Gomez step up in certain places, like we see Virgil step up. But let's be honest, guys, our best defense today is offense. And the best thing we can do is to pop one in the net in the first 10 minutes and put Villa on the back foot, thinking they have to come out a little bit and play. For me, you know, get 2 in the first half and we win this match. Take this thing 0-0 to 70 minutes. It could be squeaky bum time.
Yeah, I think there's a good point there actually, though, about the the best forms, attack and stuff like that, because we do forget this is a side who went to Newcastle and lost 5-1. Still, only a couple of weeks ago. If you score in the first 5-10, they might be starting off in Vietnam flashbacks, and then before you know it, it's Liverpool can go on and score a few goals. So it's super interesting. I think that if we do score in the first 5-10, I think this could be literally a landslide for the Reds.
Yeah, I mean, Villa, they've beat 2 clubs who will probably finish in the bottom 4, and then they got smashed by Newcastle, right? So there really isn't much to base off of what we can expect them to do here. Maka, any guesses on who will get the red card today? I feel like eventually we've got to go down to 10 men. And so you want to throw a hat in the ring there?
Jones.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Because what I like about Jones, apart from his talent on the ball, he's actually quite a fighter. Like if he loses, I think it's possibly part of his 97% retention rate is that when he loses the ball, he's like a little terrier snapping back to try and get it back. And that's part of the perception of why he looks like a kid, because he looks like a really upset teenager who's just been told that they can't play their favorite. I don't know what teenagers do these days. We used to go to the park and drink cider when I was a kid. So whatever American teenagers do, yeah, because he knows.
Us American teenagers, we just called the park. It was just some path in the middle of the fire, and it was beer. So it wasn't that different, but they are different today. You are right.
That's what Jones reminds me of. I do love that about him. It's almost Suarez, like how dare you take this ball off me, and I'm going to punish you and your family for many generations going forward for doing so. So I could imagine it would be Jones, and if it happens, it's happening in the 5th minute or something like that.
Don't say that, man. I can't.
I can't do another. Honestly, I think we went We went 2 seasons at one point during Klopp's reign without a straight red in the Premier League, and we had them in back-to-back matches. Like, it's insane. So for me, let's not talk anymore about the Reds. Well, let's talk about the Reds, but not red cards.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good point here as well, though, which no one's spoken about. Villa played Thursday, and I've just checked that Matty Cash got 45, Konza got 45. He's 8-0 up, and he brings on Watkins for 30 minutes. You tell me, I have no idea. But Douglas Luiz gets 70. Tielemans plays the full 90. So there's players there who've played minutes on Thursday as well, which could be super interesting. So I'm excited.
Speaking of which, here's the lineup that came out for Villa. So yeah, definitely nothing that we didn't expect happened. But given that they played on Thursday, given what you just said, there's plenty of rotation. I think that they're pretty fresh. Trevor, I know you brought up some names. Anything else that you think is going to be key in this match that we haven't touched on?
Taking it to Martinez early, because he's a guy that once he gets a couple saves in him, he starts to like grow in confidence, like a Dragon Ball Z character. But we need to like get him just off kilter early, and I think he will start to get in his own head, because he's his own worst enemy. And if we can get him peppered early, and not necessarily he makes like a world-class save or anything like that, just keeping him busy, I think that's huge to kind of just keep him off enough. So when we get that early goal, it's just going to flood, because it happened in the Newcastle game. Once one goes in, he just hangs his head and it's over.
I think it's hard that, mate, because like for Martinez, because I think he's a keeper who does like to be busy. But I know what you're saying. He does have a little weird mistake in him. He'll just do something mad. He'll just do something a bit mad, and you're like, Alisson's got it. Where Alisson just does something a bit mad one game, and you're like, where's that come from? I haven't seen that in 45 games.
Yeah, give him a million opportunities to make a mistake.
Yeah, the one thing I said about that Villa side, oh my God, it's some side, isn't it? Like, you forget, like, you know, how deep they are. They're a good team, you know.
Yeah,
and young.
What Emery has done with that side since he took over for Gerrard, and I know some of the players, you know, were there when Gerrard was there, and he struggled with utilizing them. But the idea that, you know, they go out, they get Diego Carlos, he gets hurt, he's out for the whole year. They bring Konza in. Konza looks apart, you know, getting called up to the French national team. Then they go out and sign Pau Torres, like a guy that Unai Emery knows inside and out, a loyal soldier, like understands his needs. I mean, Luka Dean was shite at Everton, looked like he was done, gets to Villa and finds the Barcelona Luka Dean. Like it's crazy in some ways how much they've done. And I think the best piece of business maybe this summer no one talks about is, some will say it's signing Diaby. I disagree. The best piece of business was making sure Ollie Watkins didn't take a truckload of cash from Spurs as soon as they had that truckload, because that, to me, he is the best striker outside of the top 6. And that's arguing that that Villa isn't in the top 6, I guess, maybe. In the Premier League, maybe there's one I'm not thinking of, but I personally think he's the striker who's next up for the big move. Like, it's maddening to me.
Ferguson.
Well, Ferguson's really good, but he's 18 and he's got it. But
he's Irish. That's why I'm putting him in there.
It's maddening to me. I'm sorry. It's maddening to me that United, and albeit for me to take a shot at United here, it's, you know, pre 9 a.m., so it makes sense. But maddening to me that United would spend $75 million on a guy who has less career goals in professional appearances than Ollie Watkins has playing for Aston Villa in the Premier League. Like, to me, if I were United, I would have went after Ollie Watkins before I ran for Højlund. That felt like just a big name they had to get when they missed out on everything else. But maybe it was because Villa knows they're in it. They're in Europe. They have an opportunity here to push forward, and they're doing the right thing, which is hanging on for another year or two. But to me, it's all about Watkins and Diaby up top today. How we control them and not letting McGinn win balls in midfield to start the break. Douglas Luiz and McGinn. McGinn's an underrated player too. Yeah. All he does is show up and just be Scottish and play well. And it's like one of those like funny things you see, like a player has lots of talent, but you just don't give him enough credit because of I think it's where he comes from and how he looks. He looks like a guy who should have been playing in England in the 80s, and therefore he can't be any good today. But, he is a good footballer.
I think as well, though, going off that, they're probably the best side in the Conference League. They have to be the best side in the Conference. I don't care who they play. That is the best side in the Conference League. And if they don't win it, they'll be a bit gutted that they didn't win it because they should win that competition. So that probably could be a selling point for Ollie Watkins. You win a trophy here, mate, because you haven't won one since the 80s. They won the European Cup in the 80s. Then that's you are a hero. It's like the West Ham thing with Declan Rice, isn't it? Declan Rice leaves and he's a god. It's like you won as a trophy, and that's literally what Ollie Watkins has the opportunity to do.
Yeah, and I mean, and we didn't even touch on the best Polish player in the world, in Matty Cash. And it is what it is. So, going from Poland over to Turkey, let's bring on Timochin. Hello, Timochin. How are you? Good morning.
What's going on, gentlemen? If you try to wake up, you look at that lineup, you're like, whoa, and that wakes you up freaking 7 a.m.
Yeah,
but
what are your thoughts there?
It should be exciting. I don't even know if I'm going to feed the dogs because they should get more than enough snacks, it looks like. But I guess I'll feed them just in case. But yeah, it should be like a snack day, looks like. Hopefully, because that's kind of like, looks like, looking at that lineup, that's kind of what our hope is outscoring the opponent.
And we did talk about that before the Chelsea match, that it felt the same way, and then it ended up only being 1-1. But do you feel like this feels a lot more open than that match felt before we went into it?
I think being home makes a huge difference there. Having the crowd like kind of push them constantly, and I don't know. I feel like the team has a bit more confidence in himself now. I mean, that Newcastle game should definitely help. The first couple of weeks should help. I think the first week, heck, we were like, what's going to happen? So I'm assuming, nobody knew or could trust the guy next to him. I think there's a better understanding of what the guy next to you does. Having said that, that midfield, especially at the 6, kind of worries me. I think we're counting on the fact that we're going to have the ball a lot. If this team does not have the ball a lot, though, that could get scary.
Gally, did you want to add something to that point there?
No, I definitely agree with Timuchin there. I think that we talked about it earlier. I think our best defense today is probably offense, keeping the position of the ball, playing within each other, not going too crazy at times. And I think you're going to ask Darwin to basically just sit off of the 2 center backs and just create havoc for them. And I think it is perfect when they play in a 3 center back side like this, that you have Mo and Nunez making the darting, the diagonal runs into their free space behind them. And I think there'll be a few of those over the top balls. Probably miss Virgil's long ball a little bit today in his diagonals. So it'll be interesting to see how Gomez and what the tactics change there. But maybe to Kazi's point, maybe by keeping Robo back more to like more around the halfway line, he starts to create the diagonals and switch possession and the flanks. I think Trent plays a big role in creating today in the middle of the pitch. And I hope he's up for it by also keeping his mind that, they have some pacey wingers that are trying to get beyond him on both sides. Another thing that was kind of crazy, today's Klopp's 300th match in charge for Liverpool, 300th league match in charge. It'll be 8 years. I didn't realize this. He is the longest standing tenured manager in England in the top flight. That's how much turnover there is. No one's been there longer. So I would love to see them be able to find a way, get the 3 points, keep the manager happy, supporters in the stadium, sing his song before the game, sing his song after the game. But please, for the love of God, I don't want the announcers to have to tell me again that Klopp is telling the crowd to stop singing my effing song. I understand what he's saying. It does seem a little trivial to me. He just wants it to be focused about the players on the pitch. And hopefully it's one of those days, not like Bournemouth, because the Bournemouth game was so damn boring and so poor to start. I don't blame them for singing the manager song. I wouldn't want to sing anything about those players at the beginning of the match, but I do agree with the manager. Hopefully they listen, they sing about the players, we get the 3 points, because how great would it be to have 10 out of 12, be 2 points off of City, and know that you've already got Newcastle away, Villa at home, and Chelsea away. That is monstrous. Now, one thing I will say, maybe we might have actually broken Newcastle, because that team that played yesterday looked like a side who got kicked in the stomach and couldn't get up, right? So this Newcastle thing could be interesting because they come back with 2 more tough fixtures and they go into Europe, and they were given literally the toughest group of any European competition. So Eddie Howe and those boys up north, they got a little bit of work to do.
I just want to point out something though that Gally said, because I think it's something that it's been noticeable this season. This team, as opposed to last year, looks like they know how to get it done. By hook or by crook, whatever means necessary, they're getting it done. And I think that bodes well for the rest of the season for us right now.
I think it's nice when you can have a midfield who can run as well to get things done. I think it is nice. It is just lovely to see a midfield like Sabazai just running. Oh my God, they can run.
He can't stop
like,
running.
It's like, and the one thing that we haven't spoken about, I suppose it's Trent's first game as captain, proper game. Let's get, as captain. I think he showed a lot of good skills last week, not to get himself sent off. All he had to do last week was just sneeze on Anthony Gordon, and he would have got sent off. So I think he done really well to stay on the pitch. You could see his emotion at the end of the game because he knew, let's get it right, if Liverpool go on and lose that game 1-0, what the story was. The story was about Trent Alexander-Arnold getting himself sent off, and he knew himself that, no, we've changed the whole story now. It's nothing to do with me anymore, but of course, we're the fans, we know. So I'm super excited to see what he's about today, if that gives him an extra little, pep in his step, which could be very interesting, but super excited for him as well.
And pep in the step, Trevor pepping and stepping to the pub. It opens at 8 a.m., or are you able to go in now?
I can go in. They opened about 15 minutes ago, but I'm just kind of, I peeked in for a second just to see what type of rowdiness and if I could find a quiet corner, and that was not going to be the case. So
well,
I decided to stay in the car.
We are going to go around and give our predictions, so you can go and try and find a quiet place. What is your prediction for today's match?
As much as I want to jump up with the goals a bit, I'm staying 2-1, and with the usual theme, the one goal we give up is going to piss us off.
I think that's fair. Maka?
For me, 5-0. First clean sheet and a lot of goals.
Kazi?
I said 1-0 on the Friday, but I thought he'd start to end up. So now I'm going 4-1 Liverpool.
Gally?
I love that. I love how we go from 1-0 to 4-1 because Endo's not starting. It's like we've just made it into something completely new. I love it.
He's a goal vortex.
I called for a 3-1 on the Monday podcast. I think we all were calling 3-1. That is the Timuchin staple, especially at home. But I'm gonna make it a little bit tougher just with the change. I think it will be a little bit more attack minded. I'll say we win 4-2. But that it's actually a lot tighter of a match than that. Maybe it's 3-2 and, Jota does a Jota thing in the 90th minute and we win. We have 5 comfortable extra minutes instead of what could be a whole second half. So I'll say it's a kind of a 3-2 thriller that we get a late one and we walk out of there 4-2 winners.
Turkish one. What are you thinking?
I'll stick with my 3-1. I was tempted to jump to the 4-2, 5-2 combination, but, let's stick with the classics over here. 3-1 home win, take the 3 points. Dance into the international break.
I like that. I'm gonna shoot for the clean sheet at 2-0 and see what happens there. But we are going to sign off and let everyone get nestled into their fun environments, whatever it may be, whether it's your own couch, whether it's a pub, whether it's outside in a tent. I don't care, as long as you're having fun. From everyone here at American Scouser, thank you for tuning in to the pre-match show. We'll see you after for the reaction, and we might have some of these guys, some of these beautiful faces back on. So for American Scouser, that is all. And up the Reds, and let's go.
Let's go. I can't get